Temple of Crotone, southern Italy. Unknown year. A stone corridor, a circular room without windows, a bronze rope suspended from the ceiling, and under it a notebook without signature, without date, without owner. A single sentence burned on the first page. He who vibrates in his note does not get sick, he simply forgets. No one knows who left it there. No one had touched it because whoever tried to open it without silence heard nothing, only internal static. It is said that Pythagoras did not die, he simply stopped making sounds. But before disappearing, he sealed his last thought in a notebook that can only be read by those who have stopped looking for answers and have begun to hear questions. When the soul and the body no longer resonate on the same frequency, illness begins. He wrote it in the margin of his room days before falling silent forever. For centuries, some monks, musicians, doctors, and alchemists talked about this notebook but never showed it. They said that you can't teach what you can only vibrate until now. What you are about to listen to is not an audiobook. It is a resonance, an echo that has survived time because it was never written for paper, but for the chest. And if you are here, it is because at some level, you are vibrating with it. In the next few minutes, you will understand why. Pythagoras said that the universe is not made of things, but of notes. How a simple string could give back the soul to a sick body. And what does it really mean to tune before trying to heal yourself? This message does not ask you to believe it, only to shut up and listen. If in these first moments something inside you has vibrated, even if it was just a whisper, leave a like. It's not for me. It's the silent signal that I know how to recognize that tells me, I feel it too, I am already part of this frequency. That's how I will know that you are not just a spectator, but a living resonance. And I will feel it, I promise. Chapter 1. Everything that exists vibrates. Nothing is dead, it is just out of tune. I didn't learn this from papyrus, nor from formulas, nor between marble columns. I understood it the first time I saw a man die while still breathing. His body was warm, his gaze serene, his heart still beating rhythmically, and yet I knew he was no longer there. There was something invisible, like a thread that connected his interior to the melody of life, and that thread had broken, not because something was missing, but because it no longer vibrated. It was then that I asked myself a question that no one in the temple had ever asked before, whether life is not measured in beats, but in frequency. From that day on, I stopped seeing the body as a machine and began to listen to it as an instrument. Its age, its bones, or its history did not matter. Only this mattered. It is vibrating. And in what tone the entire universe vibrates. You already know that. But it is not only that it vibrates, it is that it vibrates in relation to you. You too are frequency, you too are note. And every thought you hold, every emotion you repeat, every word you pronounce changes your vibration. Haven't you noticed how certain people make you feel lighter even if they don't say anything? Or how certain places make you tremble inside even when there is no visible danger? It's not perception, it's vibration, it's resonance, it's the language you haven't learned, but that your body has always spoken. I spent years trying to heal from the outside with herbs, massage, prayer, fasting. Some helped, some didn't. Until I understood this. What does not resonate with you does not stay. What is not in your note falls. And what makes you sick is not what hurts you, it is what forces you to vibrate as something you are not. I once saw a woman healed just by hearing the right note on a monochord. Just that, a sustained, pure, clean tone. It didn't have a name, but when she heard it she began to cry, and through her tears she said to me, I didn't know there was something in me that remembered this. Then I knew that healing is not knowledge, it is memory. Everything that exists vibrates, and everything that vibrates can return to its original state if it is reminded how, not with words or techniques, but with a presence that does not judge, that does not push, that only resonates. Diseases are not punishments or tests. They are vibrational messages, cries of the body that says, I am out of my note, help me return. If this touches you, it is because something inside you is already starting to tune. And do not get confused. You do not have to be a musician or a mystic. You just have to listen with your pores, with your chest, with the silent vibration that lives in your soul. Chapter 2. The body is an out-of-tune liar. It wasn't in a book that I understood it. It was by watching an old man who walked without rhythm, as if each step were a note separate from the others. His back bent, his arms silent, his gaze on another melody. He had no wounds, no fever, but he was sick because his body no longer sang. Not as a whole, but as parts that no longer knew how to listen to each other. I saw it clearly that afternoon. The body doesn't get sick by mistake. It gets sick when it forgets itself. Like a sacred lyre that, neglected, begins to sound distorted without anyone noticing at first. Every part of the body has its own tone. The heart beats in rhythm, the lungs breathe in intervals, the liver vibrates in time. You don't have to measure it, you can feel it. Haven't you ever felt an emotion and suddenly felt your stomach contract, or something that distressed you, and before you knew it, your neck stiffened? It's not a coincidence. It's the internal vibration that puts a perfect instrument out of tune. Medicine calls it a symptom. I call it dissonance. Because when a single string loses its tone, the whole instrument stops sounding the way it should. And the worst part is not that it sounds bad. The worst is that it starts to forget its original song. For years I believed I had to repair the body like a blacksmith, press here, force there, move, correct, impose, until I saw the obvious. The body doesn't need to be forced, it needs to be tuned. And tuning something isn't breaking it, it's listening to it first. Once, a disciple came to the temple suffering from insomnia. No herb calmed her, no technique supported her. I asked her to lie down on the stone and I placed the monochord on her chest, just one sustained note. After a few minutes she began to cry, but not from sadness. She cried as if her body had remembered a lost song. She fell asleep there, and when she woke up she said to me, "I don't know what you did, but I finally listened to myself." It wasn't me. It was her body that found the exact tone that her soul had forgotten to hold. The body is not an obstacle to healing, it is the instrument. The problem is that we treat it like a prison, when in reality it is a cathedral of vibration. Every organ is an altar, every cell a note. And if you learn to listen to what sounds out of place, you can bring it back into tune without pushing, without fear, just by tuning. Harmony does not impose itself, it reveals itself when you stop interfering with the sound that is already inside you. If you feel pain somewhere, ask yourself, is that part of me screaming, or is it just trying to sing in its original note without being heard? Illness is not the problem. It is the signal from the body asking you to tune it again. And if you listen with your heart, you will know which chord it is calling you. Chapter 3. The human voice is sacred medicine. Every word carries a frequency, and every frequency is an order for the body. It was not in a temple that I discovered this, nor in an experiment. It was by listening to a mother sing. She did not have a beautiful voice or perfect intonation, but as she caressed the forehead of her sick son, her voice vibrated with truth, and that was enough. The child fell asleep, and when he woke up, the fire of the fever was gone, not because of the music, but because of the intention behind the sound. There I understood something that I had heard many times before, but that I had never been able to explain in words. The voice is not used to inform, it is used to transform. Modern medicine measures the organs, but forgets that the voice is the first contact we have with the soul. When you speak, you do not only emit sounds, you program, activate, create. The body listens even when you think you are only expressing. Every word has a weight and, even more, a frequency. The words you say when you are angry vibrate differently than those you say in love, and the body knows it, feels it, records it. I have seen people get sick from repeating the same painful story over and over, and others heal from having said for the first time a truth they had kept hidden in their chest. The voice does not need volume to heal, it needs presence. Once a man came to the temple with chest pains. They told him it was stress, they gave him tonics. Nothing worked. I asked him to say aloud just one sentence he had never dared to say. At first he stammered. His throat shook, but finally he said it, and his chest relaxed like a rope finally loosened. It wasn't the words, it was the emotional vibration that was released with them. Since then, I have told my disciples, do not use your voice to explain. Use it to align yourself. Speak only when your words can tune what was out of tune. Be silent if your silence has more resonance than your ego. Empty words make you sick. Living words heal. Your vocal cords are not there just to communicate. They are there to vibrate with what the soul wants to release. If you learn to say what your body has kept silent, you will see how your organs stop fighting with you, because they do not need medicine, they need you to give them back your true frequency. You sing and you do not know what to say. You shout and you have held back for years. Whisper if you are learning to hear, but do it from the soul, not out of habit. The voice is not only yours, it is the energy that lives within you, and if you use it with truth, it will be the purest medicine you have ever pronounced. Chapter 4. There is no healing without silence. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the frequency of the divine. I have taught many things. I have spoken of notes, tones, vibrations. But the most difficult thing to transmit was this. Silence is also sound. Only you do not hear it with your ears. You recognize it with your soul. I learned it in solitude, not in a class, nor surrounded by disciples, but in the deepest retreat I have ever done, 40 days without uttering a single word. At first it hurt, not because of the silence, but because of the internal noise that had not yet dissolved. Thoughts, justifications, wounds that spoke without permission. But as the days passed, the noise began to subside and something different emerged. A buzz, a subtle vibration, an impulse that came neither from outside nor from inside, but from a place in between. I understood. Therefore, silence is not empty, it is pure presence. It is the original field where everything is reordered. When a string is out of tune, sometimes the worst thing you can do is keep playing it. The best thing is to let it rest, listen to its silence, and allow it to remember. I have seen people heal not by talking, not by singing, not by moving, but by sitting in silence and not running away from what they heard there. Silence reveals things that words ruin, and if you learn to sustain it without forcing it, without filling it, you will see how your system begins to readjust. A disciple once said to me, "Master, I feel as if I were nothing anymore." And I replied, "Then you can listen to everything now, because only when the mind is silent can the vibration of the soul take its place. And only in that state does healing cease to be an effort and become a natural consequence." Nothing vibrates higher than sacred silence. Illness needs noise to sustain itself, arguments, denial, self-deception. But when silence comes, that noise loses power, and what was out of balance begins to return to its original note. That is why, before any method, I prescribed silence. Conscious silence, silence without judgment, silence that vibrates. And if you are here today waiting for a technique, a mantra, a formula, I will tell you the simplest and most feared one. Sit in silence and listen to what you have not yet wanted to hear. That is where true healing begins. You sing and do not know what to say. You shout and have held back for years. Whisper if you are learning to hear, but do it from the soul, not from habit. The voice is not only yours, it is the energy that inhabits you. If you use it with truth, it will be the purest medicine you have ever spoken. Chapter 5. Numbers also heal. Everything that vibrates has proportion. Everything that has proportion can be tuned. I didn't invent mathematics. I just heard it for the first time in the form of harmony. It was one night while I was tuning the monochord. A string, a single string on an empty box, emitted a tone so clean, so exact, that I felt time stop in the room. And when I placed my hand halfway down the string, the tone changed. It became sharper, higher, but just as pure. I repeated it in other proportions, 1, 2, 3, and each time the music became more orderly. And then I saw it. Vibration is governed by proportions, and so is the body. Geometry is not an invention. It is the imprint of an intelligence that was already organizing the universe before you could name it. Your heart does not beat randomly. Your lungs do not breathe in an uncoordinated way. Your steps, your voice, your thoughts, everything has rhythm. And when that rhythm is broken, chaos begins. That is why, when they asked me, "What technique do you use to heal?" I did not answer with remedies. I said rhythm, proportion, interval, living mathematics. Some called me crazy, others a sorcerer, but those who remained in the temple, those who learned to listen with their chest, saw how music, number, and silence began to reorder their organs, their thoughts, and their emotions. Haven't you ever felt that moment when you listen to a melody and, without knowing why, something in you aligns? It's not the lyrics, it's not the emotion, it's the sacred proportion hidden behind the sound. The number is not an idea, it's an ordered vibration. When the body is sick, it's not broken, it's out of proportion. And if you can bring it back to its original mathematics, even with a tone, with a rhythmic breath, with a conscious walk, something inside begins to remember. This is healing, not imposing, not repairing, but allowing the rhythm that supports the universe to also support your body. Breathe as if your breath had compassion. Walk as if your steps were a rhythmic prayer. Speak as if each word had a sacred interval, and you will see how your life begins to sound like a song that has always been yours, but that you had never tuned. Chapter 6. Every emotion has a tone. If you listen to it, it heals. If you block it, it makes you sick. When I was young, I believed that some emotions were negative: anger, sadness, fear. I tried to control them, avoid them, repress them. But one day I saw a child crying without shame. His face vibrated, his chest moved like an ancient drum, and then suddenly he laughed, as if crying had only prepared his soul to receive a new frequency. There I understood that emotions are not obstacles, they are waves that pass, and if you hold them back, if you interrupt them, if you judge them, they become toxins. Unexpressed anger crystallizes in the liver, retained sadness weighs down the lungs, denied fear contracts the kidneys. We already knew it, even if we didn't say it like that. That is why, when someone came with persistent pain, I did not just look for the point of the body, but the unreleased emotion. "When did you stop crying?" I asked. "When did you stop singing? When did you stop telling the truth?" And many fell to their knees, because those questions vibrated forgotten strings. Healing did not begin with a touch, but with the permission to feel again, not as therapy, but as a return to one's original note. Emotions are not a mistake, they are music that seeks to be heard. And every time you repress what you feel, you lower your frequency. You don't realize it, but the body knows. The body always knows. And when you don't listen to it, it screams. It screams with tiredness, with insomnia, with inflammation. This is why medicine cannot be only physical. It must also be emotional, vibrational sound. I have seen strong men heal when they finally screamed what they had kept silent for years. And brave women untie knots just by allowing themselves to tremble in front of someone who did not judge them. It is not healed by holding, but by allowing. Whenever you feel an emotion rising, ask yourself, can I feel it without repressing it? Can I allow it to pass through me without identifying with me? You don't have to be overwhelmed. You just have to listen to its tone, honor it, and then let it go. Emotions are vibrations in motion. If you respect them, they tune you. If you deny them, they disharmonize you. That's why a sincere cry sometimes heals more than 100 prayers said without feeling. Because when the sound of the soul is expressed, the whole body remembers who it is. And there is no medicine more powerful than this memory. Chapter 7. Conscious touch harmonizes what words cannot. For years I used my hands to heal, not because they were special, but because I had learned to touch with presence. Touch is a direct vibration. It does not pass through thought. It does not need translation. It arrives before the word. It remains after the silence. Once a woman arrived without a voice. No physical illness, only inexplicable aphonia. I took her throat delicately, my hands under the nape of her neck, and remained there in silence. I felt her body tremble under my fingertips. I said nothing. I just touched. And when she stood up, she made a sound, small but true. She looked at me in surprise and said, "It wasn't the voice, it was my fear." And then I understood even more. The hands can give back to the body what the mind has separated. But it's not the touch itself, it's the quality of the touch. If you touch to control, the body defends itself. If you touch with judgment, the body tenses up. But if you touch with listening, the body surrenders, and in surrender, healing begins. I have taught this to few, because conscious touch is not taught in theory. It is transmitted in presence, refined in silence, perfected in humility. Fingers must not force, they must feel. The deepest touch is not the one that enters, it is the one that welcomes. I have seen backs melt without massages, only with firm, present, loving hands. Because the skin knows how to recognize the truth. Don't try to heal with touch, tune, resonate. Make contact as if your hand were a note asking for permission. And when you feel that the other's body vibrates with you, there is no need for anything else. The work is done. The memory has returned. Healing has begun its dance. Chapter 8. The soul heals when the body vibrates without fear. I have seen people recite hundreds of mantras, do years of therapy, follow the most complex techniques without healing. And then, suddenly one night, let go of a tremor, a deep breath, a sincere laugh, and heal. Not because they had understood something, but because they had stopped controlling. Control is the frequency of fear, and fear is the note that disconnects the soul from the body. Fear is not the enemy. It is a bell. It tells you that you are trying to force a rhythm that is no longer yours. When you are afraid, your body contracts. Your voice goes silent. Your heart races. It is not punishment. It is protection. Your body is saying, "I can't sing like this." What if instead of fighting the fear, you listened to it? What if you thanked it for the message and then slowly returned to your center? You cannot heal while fighting yourself. Healing comes when you stop trying to be perfect and start vibrating in your truth, even if it is imperfect. The body heals when it feels safe. The soul returns when you stop lying to it. You don't have to be light to heal. You have to be real. The highest vibrations are not the pure ones, they are the authentic ones. Even pain, if it is authentic, has its medicine. Even anger, if it is conscious, can free an ancient knot. The problem is that we have learned to pretend. Pretend to be fine, pretend to know, pretend to be strong. But the body doesn't pretend, the body knows. And when your frequency doesn't match your truth, it gets sick. Stop asking yourself what to do. Ask yourself who you are trying to be. And if the answer is different from who you are now, come back. Come back to vibrating without a mask, without defense. Chapter 9. Healing is not going back to who you were, it is vibrating with who you are now. Many seek healing as a return. I want to go back to how I felt before, I want to find my old energy again. But what you were before was a passage, not a destination. Healing is not a return, it is a new harmony. A new note that is born after dissonance, like a string that after being pulled too much, finally finds its center. You will never be the same again, and that is the gift. Because who you were before needed to get sick in order to remember. Now that you remember, you can play differently, slower perhaps, deeper certainly, and even if the world no longer recognizes you, you will feel like you are finally resonating. Don't chase who you were, honor who you are becoming. Every symptom was a note out of place, every fall a lower octave, every awakening a new scale. If you listen with love, everything that has happened has brought you to this moment. And from here, you can choose what music to play, not for the world, but for yourself. And if your melody is true, those who must listen will come. The body does not forget, but it can forgive. When you stop forcing it to be what it is not, it begins to relax. And when it relaxes, it vibrates again. The secret is not to correct, it is to accompany. You will not heal if you do not accept who you are today. You will not heal if you judge what you felt yesterday. True healing is not the absence of symptoms. It is conscious presence. It is when you stop chasing health and start living in your frequency, whatever it is. And from there, the body tunes in, and the soul sings, and life becomes music, not theory. Chapter 10. The frequency of gratitude repairs what fear has damaged. Where gratitude vibrates, the wound loses power. Many ask me, what tone should I use to heal? What bowl should I play? What note should I give? And sometimes I answer with a paradox. The highest tone is not always a sound. Sometimes it is a sustained feeling. And that tone, that silent vibration that transforms the most, is gratitude. I am not talking about saying thank you with your mouth or writing lists to force yourself to see the good. I am talking about an internal frequency that is activated when the soul stops fighting and starts embracing. I discovered it myself at a time when I had nothing to be grateful for. I had lost a loved one. My body was exhausted and my mind was empty. Yet, in that inner silence, I felt a slight vibration, like a warm pulse in my chest. It wasn't peace. It wasn't love. It was a presence that said to me, "You are still here." And that was it. That was gratitude, not for anything in particular, but for the simple fact of existing in that moment. And from that day on, I understood something that no formula had taught me. Gratitude is not an emotion, it is a frequency that repairs, that cleans, that brings the body back to its original note. I have seen sick people resist every treatment until they began to be grateful, not for the disease, but for what they were discovering through it. And something changed. Their cells stopped defending themselves, their muscles softened, their vibration rose. Fear closes, gratitude opens. You can't hold fear and gratitude together. One cancels the other. And when you choose to be grateful, even for the smallest ray of light, you are reordering your entire vibrational field. I once asked a disciple not to say thank you with words. I asked him to say it with his body. What does a grateful body look like? How does it walk? How does it breathe? And as he practiced it, something in him began to heal, without words, just with presence. The body recognizes gratitude as permission to stop defending itself, to let go, to trust, to regenerate. Don't be grateful only when things are going well. Be grateful for the learning, for the mistakes, for the pain that has taught you your true value, and then you will discover that gratitude is not a consequence, it is a cause. When you are grateful, your frequency rises, and when it rises, everything that does not vibrate with you dissolves. Make gratitude a vibrational habit, an energetic posture, a silent offering to the universe, because where there is gratitude, disease cannot remain. Chapter 11. Healing begins when you stop fighting who you are. You are not broken. You are tired of rejecting yourself. For years I wanted to change too, to be stronger, kinder, wiser, less afraid. I looked at myself as if I were an imperfect instrument, and every day I tried to correct myself with discipline, demands, and guilt, until one day I sat down in front of a Tibetan bowl. I hit it gently, and it didn't sound right. I tried again and again. Harder hits, different angles, nothing. And then, without thinking, I left it in silence. I didn't force it, I didn't correct it. I waited, I breathed with it, and after a few minutes it made a clear, round, perfect sound, and I understood. Sometimes the instrument doesn't sound bad because it's broken, but because you're trying to make it sound like something it's not. That's what happens with you, with your body, with your history, with your emotions. You struggle with what you feel, with what you think, with what you haven't achieved yet, and that internal war creates more noise, more tension, more disease than any external vibration. No one heals from rejection. It all starts with reconciliation. I've seen people constantly struggling with their past, with their body, with their sensitivity, and that silent struggle ends up exhausting their nervous system, their voice, their back, their dreams. You are not weak to feel, you are not damaged to not fit in, you are not lost to need silence, you are alive. And life is vibration in motion, not a straight line. A disciple once said to me, "Master, I no longer want to be as I am." And I said, "Then you will never heal, because the body releases pain only when it feels that it will no longer be attacked. Your healing does not depend on being someone else. It depends on coming back to yourself unconditionally." How do you talk to yourself when you fail? How do you breathe when you look in the mirror? How do you sound when you are alone? This also vibrates. This also creates an energy field. Your body listens to all of this, and it doesn't heal when you're tough, but when you're present, when you stop trying and start allowing, when you let go of the idea of being better and start feeling the beauty of being exactly who you are. Because in that moment, your cells stop defending themselves and start trusting. The system opens up, your voice comes back, your skin glows. Not because you've won, but because you've stopped fighting. True healing is not a finish line. It's a state where your body, your soul, and your story can play together. Without war, without a mask, without shame. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to resonate. And when you enter that vibration, everything falls into place. Your heart beats in rhythm. Your breath becomes a prayer. Your steps sound like music. Life accompanies you like an invisible orchestra just waiting for you to tune in. Remember, you don't have to find your voice. You already have it. You just have to stop silencing it. You don't have to be light. You have to be real. The highest vibration is authenticity. Healing is not changing. It's returning to your original note, the one you had before the world asked you to be someone else. If you have listened this far, maybe a part of you has already started to remember. And if you feel ready, don't look for anything else. Don't wait for the right moment. Sit down, breathe, listen, vibrate, because the note you were looking for is you. And if the above has awakened something, even just a forgotten note deep in your soul, leave me a sign. Like that sounds like a "yes, I'm here." A comment, even just one unpublished word, your word, the one that is born now, without filters, without form, but true. And if you feel that this space can be a home for what you don't know how to say yet, sign up. Not to stay updated, but to stay connected. Here we vibrate together. Here finally, there's no need to pretend, just resonate. I hope you never forget the sound that you are, that wherever you go, you can be an agreement, an echo, life. Stay connected. I am with you. See you soon.